Welcome to the Peeples Exchange, where business meets education. I'm your host, Keara Peeples.
I'm Regis Peeples.
And on this episode, we're going to talk about the importance of embracing a growth mindset in business and education. And honestly, wherever you are, because growth is important. Whether you're a professional, a business leader, or a student, this is the episode for you if you're looking to learn more about how you can grow your own mindset and adopt a growth mindset wherever you are. Awesome. Okay, so Regis, let's kick it off. I'd love to ask you, what is a growth mindset?
The concept of a growth mindset comes from Carol Dweck. Basically, long version short, she did some educational studies on kids, and she came to the conclusion that some kids had growth and or fixed mindsets, and there's some intricacies in between as far as like motivations to learn, which types of tasks students would prefer based on what they thought about their own ability to complete those tasks.
Yeah.
Some of the students tended to prefer easier tasks that they knew wouldn't challenge them, and they also like to receive praise for those tasks. And on the other end, students would typically not prefer or not want to do tasks that were a little bit more challenging, that they thought it was possible they might not succeed in, although these tasks didn't necessarily involve receiving any kind of grade or compensation other than praise, essentially, or a compliment, things of that nature.
So it's interesting. They took the easy route, basically, in that experiment. That is, they preferred to do the easy thing that they knew that they could do well, and also liked receiving praise for that easy thing. So it's
Definitely.
twofold.
Yeah. So,
Mm,
and there's some intricacies and things of that nature, but the main point is to take away, the idea that some people believe that they can attain skills and grow in certain
okay.
areas. They don't think that they're limited to their lack of ability to do something. And on the other end, some people feel like they'll never be able to do something. And obviously, a lot of that is just because they believe they can't. They sort of limit
Mm.
themselves or have what's called a fixed mindset. All right, so I wanted to ask you, Kiara, do you think that abilities are something that people are born with, or do you think that abilities are things that people hone over time?
Great question. I actually would say I take a hybrid approach to this because I think both can be true and two things can be true at the same time. I do believe in the power of being anointed with certain gifts and talents. And I think that may come from my spiritual background. I do think that, God puts favor or places favor in our lives in certain areas. Some people are anointed to lead. Some people are anointed to sing. Some people are anointed when it comes to using their voice and giving powerful speeches that move people. I think Barack Obama is one of those people.
Okay, okay.
But yes, I think that there are people that once you're born, dependent on what your destiny is, because we all have a unique calling, God will anoint you with that. Now, on a different sense, I do also think that things can be grown within ourselves, and we can acquire talents and skills. We're not all born chemists, but there are people that grow up and they become chemists. I think there's things that you can do to develop those skills, even as an athlete, or, if you are someone that was never good at basketball. Like I was never good at basketball. I tried out for the basketball team in the eighth grade. But later in life, I was able to shoot buckets. You say to me that I make my buckets, so
Yeah, you
that's something
do.
that
You
didn't
do.
come natural. I had to practice. So yeah, I think honestly, Regis, it's a hybrid of both. I think some people are anointed with gifts, and I think some people practice and you learn.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'd love to ask you, do you have any examples of something or a skill that maybe you weren't always good at and you later developed that skill? And I'd love to learn how you developed that skill.
For me, I feel like most of the skills I have, I definitely had to cultivate them. I can't really think of anything that I would say I just naturally was good at or born to do.
Mm.
Um, a lot of the skills and hobbies I have, I came into out of boredom and it was accidental, or I was just randomly spinning a pinwheel on a board to see what I should do for the day. I'm kind of an example of someone who tried to be a jack of all trades and not necessarily a master of one. I didn't think that that was necessarily important.
Mm.
I find that just having those skills makes you a master of having skills. And, I kind of looked at it like being a ninja. You can have all these different ninjutsu, But that doesn't necessarily mean that you have one ultimate powerful one. Sometimes variety
Mm.
is better and more potent than having just that one amazing talent.
No, for sure. I guess in your instance, because you mentioned a lot of the skills you have now that you've watered and you've grown over time, do you believe that folks are born with certain skills, or do you believe that everybody grows into certain skills?
I'm more of a believer in our limitlessness as beings. I'm really into Martin Heidegger's metaphysical way of looking at existential beings and people, and the idea that everyone can really accomplish and achieve everything. We all have equal ability, although, our mindset really impacts it heavily. So I think we're limitless as beings. If you want to be the next LeBron, you can be. You just got to make it happen.
Mm. Okay. So we're all limitless as beings. What do you think that we need to do to tap into that limitless potential? Like, what do you think that is?
I think to tap into more of our limitlessness as beings, we need to just believe that we can do it. And we
Yeah.
need to go out and try things, and we need to go and explore things. And it's okay to just randomly try something to see if you're good at it. A lot of people will say, oh, I only stick to this because I know I'm good at it. And it's like, well, you don't know what you're additionally great at.
Right.
You
Or
have to
what you
find
can
out.
improve in.
So now that we kind of understand, growth mindset versus fixed mindset, I'm really wondering if you have any pointers or advice for people that are trying to cultivate a growth mindset, or maybe some things that business owners or managers can do to sort of tap into that limitless potential to be the best selves that they can be.
There's so many things that we can do to tap into our growth mindset, to activate our growth mindset. If it's not already turned on, right? Turn that light switch on and just progress. Embrace challenges. Challenges help us grow. And so, in order to embrace challenges, look at them as learning opportunities, and look at learning as the key to success, which really is. If you're not failing, you're not learning. If you're not failing, you're not growing. So, in order to really tap into your growth mindset, you have to be comfortable with challenges that you may not always prevail in, or you might not always win, right? I know, like when I would take tests in college and let's say I get a 90%, I'd see what I get wrong. Let me tell you something, Regis. I would never get that question wrong again because I learned from that challenge,
Yeah, of
of getting
course.
it wrong. So embrace challenges. They're here to help you. You're here to grow. And then also persisting through setbacks. As a entrepreneur and a business owner, every day isn't going to look the same. Some days are full of activities, some days are full of leads, some days are full of opportunities, and then sometimes all of those opportunities don't convert, or they don't
Hmm.
convert how we want them to, or those partnerships we thought that were like in alignment, maybe it's not the right time for that, right? So embrace setbacks and know that it's part of the game. Growth is not like a sharpshooter up towards the sky. It's a
Yeah,
spiral and it keeps going in all different directions, but you're
like that.
spiraling, not spiraling in a bad way, but you're spiraling in the right direction going up. So persist through setbacks and then learn from criticism. This was really hard for me. I think I've always been told I'm a little bit of a sensitive person. And I embrace my sensitivity because I think it makes me the creative, like empathetic and well versed person that I am. But also, it can be bad when these things that you feel make you hesitate from doing things where you might be criticized. So you have to be comfortable with criticism and know that it's a part of the game. And honestly, I've learned throughout my life that people that are willing to give me criticism and being tactful about it, like that's a form of love because they want to see me do my best, right? And so embrace criticism and then learn from your criticism as well, because we don't all have the right answers and we can all learn from each other. Continue to be a student of life. So humility will get you very far. One, you can't do everything alone. That means you don't have all the answers. That means that some people are going to give you constructive feedback and some people are going to help you, so long as you use that constructive feedback. Don't internalize it in a negative way, but internalize it in a way to help you grow, so long as it's coming from a trusted source. Continue to be a student, have that humility to say, like, there's something I can learn here. There's something that I can learn in every interaction. Like, what can you learn at the grocery store when you're picking out apples, right? There's something that you can learn every single day. And then last but not least, find inspiration in others' success. We're not crabs in a bucket, right? We don't have to drag each other down so we can try to get out, right? We can all get out together. And I think that's very important, especially in these trying times today.
It sounds like you're encouraging learning from your mistakes,
Yeah.
growing through, exploring those mistakes and unpacking the reasons behind them, and making sure that you hold yourself accountable on that journey of growth, and don't hide from the things that maybe you don't feel like make you the best version of yourself or that you've broadcasted and showcased the most adept skill at.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, perfect. And then also, making sure you surround yourself with other like-minded, growth mindset oriented people, so it's possible those things may find their way into your lives, uh, as you all, have community.
Yeah. I would love to ask you, Regis, what are some things that you feel like you can learn from other people in your environments? What are some ways that other people teach you every day?
So luckily for me in what I do, I get to learn every day, all the time.
Mhm.
Every day when I talk to my students, I learn something. Every day when I talk to my coworkers about what they're teaching, I learn something. And it's just a space of academia and learning all the time. And it's really great. And I'm super open to learning. So it's easier for the information to make its way to me because I'm not really closed off to other people's expression and what they deem as important information or knowledge.
Mhm.
I'm always willing to just lend an ear and listen. Like they said, all I know is I
Mm.
know nothing, and I'm always trying to hear about what I don't know, which
Yeah.
is almost everything, right?
Mhm.
So, a couple things I've taken away recently, is just really better understanding certain cultural aspects within the classroom that I can help mitigate by talking to students about their learning environments from where they grew up.
Yeah.
For example, some students were raised in a learning environment where they need to keep a soft voice,
Okay.
not go too high in volume, and never argue with the instructor, right?
Mhm.
But on the other end, a lot of students often come from places where debating with the instructor one on one is a crucial moment in learning where you get to not only challenge the instructor, but
Mm.
also gain some wisdom in return. Whether they're right or wrong is not really the point. It's
Yeah.
about having that intellectual exchange
Mm.
and equipping themselves with the language that they need to navigate maybe potentially difficult conversations.
Yeah.
So, a lot of communication based skills, I would say, but
Awesome.
also just information. Honestly, it's just like a big gumbo pot.
Yeah, I love that. I love that even though you are a leader in the academic space, you're still a student. And that's a beautiful illustrative example of what it looks like to also lead, but also to have that humility to be a student of life as well. So, on that note, we've talked about the growth mindset, some key pointers that our listeners can take on and adopt when trying to grow their own growth mindset or awaken the growth mindsets that they already have. Now, Regis, let's pivot a little bit. What is a fixed mindset? How do you know someone's operating from a place of a fixed mindset as well?
So, a fixed mindset is basically when your mind is set on the idea that you can't improve at things, you
Mm.
have a fear of failure, or it can even manifest as you feeling like there's no need to put effort into something you're already skilled at, and you don't really see the importance of mastering your craft.
Mm.
Having the fixed mindset isn't only about failing or not being able to do things. It's also, let's say that you're a basketball player and you're like, well, I average 80% from the three line. I don't need to go practice my threes.
Oh,
You could
so
be at 100%.
that's
You could never miss a
interesting.
three, but if
Yeah.
you think you're good enough already, that's also an example of a fixed mindset, even if you're not technically failing at shooting the threes.
I didn't even think about it like that. I always thought the fixed mindset was just about those that need to improve in a certain area, why
Mm,
they don't go for it, right? But it's
yeah.
interesting because you could already be good at something and you don't sharpen that further because maybe you're working from a place of ego, it sounds like. Yeah, so it's very interesting. I always thought about fixed mindset only in that one realm, but there's multiple layers to this. So, like if somebody is a GOAT in their craft, like LeBron James, if he isn't going to practice, then he's basically, you're saying is he's operating from a fixed mindset, meaning not not that I can't learn this, but I don't think there's anything else for me to learn.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that would be an example that I would say that Allen Iverson would be a really great example
Okay.
simply because, he scored 80 points plus points in a game. And,
Mhm.
we all know Allen Iverson is one of the greatest of all times. And he is famously known for getting in trouble for not going to practice. And
Oh.
when he was in that famous interview, he was like, practice, practice,
Like, I don't need this.
practice. And he literally let them put him on the bench. He took all kinds of penalties and things because he felt like he's so good. Why would he go to practice?
What do you feel like the repercussions are for having a fixed mindset in that way, where it's not that you haven't tried something because you don't think you're going to be good at it, but you're actually good at the thing and you don't want to continue to try the thing that maybe you've mastered in your mind?
I think that what happens is you don't continue to evolve.
Hmm.
And I think one part of evolving is, yes, you're going to hit that pinnacle where it's like, oh my gosh, I'm so amazing. And right
Hmm.
now, while I'm in the room, I'm the best in the room.
Yeah.
But I think that what people in those scenarios, especially goats, fail to realize
Mm-hmm.
is that there was a point where they weren't that person and someone else was. And then there was a point where they hit that apex and that pinnacle, and then they walked in the room, and then they became that person.
Mm-hmm.
So if you become content and satisfied, you don't evolve in a way that stops other people from catching up to you. Because there's always that other
Mm-hmm.
person that's looking up to you, and they're going to see your records, and they're going to see what you're doing, and then they're going to hit that, and then they get to decide, do I want to go beyond this, or do I want to just sit here and I'm satisfied I finally reached this goal?
I see. Thank you. Thank you for that.
So now that we've gone through all these conversations, Kiera, I really want you to tell our viewers a little bit about what limits growth mindsets within the business environment. I mean, what are some roadblocks, some limiters? What are some obstacles that might get thrown at you while you're running around the bridge?
Certainly. And I'm going to speak directly to any of the business leaders or the business owners listening today, because it's
Okay.
important when you're running a business to consider these things, right? Because not only should you be adopting and working in a place of a growth mindset, but your employees and your partners, you want to make sure that you're in an environment and you're creating an environment where other people are also doing the same. Because our environments really do shape us, right? Maybe it's not that you're a bad seed, but maybe you're planted in the wrong environment. We got to make sure our environments are what they need to be for us to produce the fruits of our labor. Fear based leadership is probably a big blocker when it comes to growth in business and growing your business from a revenue stance, but also growing your relationship with your employees and sometimes even your customers. Because if you're a fear based leader, your employees are operating from a place of anxiety, they're operating from a place of angst, they're operating from a place of worry. And when you are operating from a place of anxiety, you're not operating at your highest frequency and you're not going to produce your best work. So, for example, some ways that leaders actually create a fear based leadership model, and even unintentionally, whether it's intentional, whether it's not, is they punish people for their mistakes often, right? Everyone's probably going to mess up once in the workplace, right? Especially if someone's new and maybe they make a mistake, they're in their onboarding phase, and you immediately write them up or they get fired, or, some leaders yell at their employees. Oh, couldn't be me. Couldn't be me being that type of leader, and then couldn't be me as an employee. Yes, if you're yelling at employees, if you're writing employees up every single mistake, then you take away the opportunity for that employee to adopt a growth mindset because they fear failing and they're not going to do anything that challenges them, that they can learn from because they're afraid of failing. Or they're not going to share their ideas with you because maybe, Samantha shared her idea last week and you didn't like it and you embarrassed her in front of the whole conference room. They're not going to do that, but maybe they're sitting on that $1 million idea. So I think it's important as a leader to just practice our own kind of humility and to make sure that we're cultivating and creating safe spaces for our employees. And that means eliminating the fear based leadership. It's better for people to respect you for who you are than to fear you. So, fear based leadership definitely is a blocker for growth in the workplace. And then also fear of failure. So, whether it's yourself as a business owner or an aspiring business owner, maybe you've been sitting on an idea that you really think is going to take off. You just feel like you can't do it because you haven't seen anybody do it successfully, or you don't have any mentors, or you're just afraid of failing because of X reason, Y reason, Z reason. Some people don't ever move. Some people don't ever execute. I always say there's $1 million CEOs that are asleep right now. They're sleeping on their ideas because they're afraid to execute. And honestly, a lot of these people that we look up to, what they did and what they do well is they execute and they fail quickly. So if you are failing and if your ideas aren't working, you pivot, but you never give up on yourself. And I think the fear of failure is what limits growth in business because people don't like to lose. You know, we tend to want to be comfortable. We tend to want to be familiar with things. You talked about Carol Dweck's example earlier, where those students, they just did the easy thing because they didn't want to potentially be wrong or, fail. So I would say that kind of transpires into the workplace. Whether you're a business owner sitting on $1 million idea, whether you're a business owner not operationalizing your ideas because maybe you fear failing and you don't want to invest in your business maybe how you should, that fear of failure is going to slow you down. And I think that limits growth. And then last but not least, lack of psychological safety. It does kind of bounce with the first point of the fear-based
Mm-hmm.
leadership, but psychological safety isn't just the role of maybe the person that's leading an organization, but every employee, like if you are someone listening today and you're working a 9 to 5, you can actually create psychological fear within yourself, or you can create that hesitancy and angst all on your own because maybe it's how you're speaking to yourself. Maybe you are beating yourself up, and it doesn't necessarily mean like slapping yourself in the face. I mean, if you were doing that, maybe people would call you in somewhere. I don't know, but it could be deeper than that. Like maybe you are, when you wake up, telling yourself you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you're not bright enough. You're working from a place of insecurity. If you're working from a place of insecurity, you're actually creating a unsafe environment in your mind. And whatever you do, whether you're a business leader, whether you are a entrepreneur, if you are a employee at a business, if you are a student, if you are a professor, if you are a president of a college, if you're speaking to yourself negatively, that's going to limit your growth. And not only speaking to yourself negatively, but maybe consuming negative things uh, from people, whether it be opinions from people that aren't doing what you want to do, or whether it be opinions from people that have done what you're trying to do, but they failed and they're kind of projecting that experience onto you. You have to be careful to not absorb things. Be a sponge to what's good, but be a shield to what's bad for your mind.
All right, great. I love that explanation and how you talked about the way those things intersect,
Mhm.
because it sounds like some of them can foster the other ones and manifest them, just by proxy. So that's really important.
Yeah.
And you kind of reminded me of what Carol Dweck said: becoming is better than being.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
Just the idea that we need to always be becoming instead of just being the best or being the GOAT. We need to become and go even further, and
Mhm.
always be in that transformative state of growth. So,
I'm reading a book right now called The Power. And in the book, it talks about how we all are kind of the authors of our lives and we're in control of our destiny. And really, the way that we speak to ourselves and what we think and the way that we act controls our environment. So if you wake up and maybe you step on something and it hurts you, you're like, ouch, oh my God, nothing goes right, and you start spiraling, which, happens to some of us sometimes. But
yeah,
like if you kind of live in that spiral, then maybe you going to the grocery store and then you get into a fender bender and then it's like, okay, and then
absolutely.
something else is happening. And then you go to the gym and then you lost your ID. Like I've had days like that. And when I sit back and think about like, okay, why is this day going so horrible? It's really because of the mindset I kind of woke up in. Honestly, I really do believe that people can wake up on the wrong side of the bed. And you got to make sure when you wake up, you don't carry that energy with you. So yeah, all that to say, that book, I'm very happy to be reading it, because I think about my best days and maybe how I've cultivated those good days, and it's really my mind. And it's crazy because if you start thinking of yourself as a powerful being, you will really take what you say about yourself more seriously and what you think about yourself more seriously. And Regis, that said, we talked about, what limits a growth mindset in business. I'd love to learn from you, what limits a growth mindset in education?
So, in education, it's pretty similar. I mean, fear of failure in the classroom is a major one. I mean,
Mm.
at a base level, it's the reason why a lot of people don't even raise their hands. Well, I don't know if I have the right answer. Well, I
Yeah.
don't think that what I have to say is that important. I don't
Hmm.
think so on and so forth. That's something I hear all the time.
Mm.
And I do this thing where I have my students go back in time and I like reverse their sentence and say, "Oh, can you say that again?" Or I'll just repeat,
Yeah.
the initial question. Even like with sometimes with sharing work, a student might get up and say, "Oh, this is really bad. I'm going to read. And it's just like, all right, look, you already done messed up. Now here we go. Right.
Why are you doing yourself like
So fear of failure,
that?
definitely.
Yeah.
Also, a lot of our
Mm,
educational tools limit creativity and expression.
mm,
And some educators don't really explore experimental learning, which is crucial. A lot of the learning techniques we use are a bit outdated. And what people have to remember is that learning evolves with the technology around us. And as the technology becomes more sophisticated, we need to get a bit more clever in how we are passing along information, especially in the internet and digital age.
yeah.
So definitely creativity and experimentation is something that is lacking, that can cause students to feel like they are not smart or not equipped to learn just simply because the learning style doesn't line up
Yeah, it
with
doesn't
the way that
suit
they
them.
learn. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Because I remember being a student and taking that test. Like, what kind of learner are you? Are you tactile?
Hmm.
Are you audio? And I was always tactile. So I need to do the thing, even if I mess up, because that's how I learn. And
Hmm.
I don't know. I actually do relate to that because I need to try. Like, I can sit here and listen to somebody talk about it, but I might not even be paying attention.
I got you. And
I might not be paying attention, but I love that you share that example. And I want to ask you, as a professor and academic leader, what are some things that you feel at a high level, like professors and academic leaders and teachers can do to consider the learning styles of everyone?
well, one thing that educators can do is just immerse themselves in different experimental techniques and learning methods that are being tested. A lot of people are doing dissertations and research where they're creating experiments or researching different strategies. I know play is a really big one that
Mm-hmm.
gets slept on a lot. The importance of play in learning. A lot of people, why are we playing in the
Mm,
classroom? Well, people learn things while they're playing video games. People learn communication skills while they're playing cards.
oh,
People
for
learn
sure.
critical thinking and math. You're playing poker and games of chance and you're thinking about probabilities. So I think just being open to exploring different types of learning attempts and techniques and experiments and games and whatever the case is.
So being open to, as a educational leader,
Hmm.
exploring different types of learning. So on that note, I'd love to learn if there are any other types of experimental learning styles that you feel like professors or teachers aren't doing enough of in the classroom.
Honestly, I think play is the biggest one. And I think right now it's the most important one because there's sort of been a migration away from play. And to go back to the original point of limitations, grades, GPA,
Mm-hmm.
all of those things are limiters. Um, and also, play can help eliminate sort of the idea of being smart or not smart
Mm-hmm.
because it does sort of reduce the stakes in a way that students aren't necessarily worried about their GPA because they're busy being engaged in play as a learning
Mm-hmm.
device, which is not the same as write this essay. Immediately, you got grammar, syntax, spelling, structure. There's all these things that are going to potentially come in the way of that student being successful. But if play is involved,
Mm-hmm.
there's not necessarily a wrong way to play. Even when a game has rules, people are really going to find their own way to navigate it. And that can help mitigate things like I'm not smart or I am smart, or even less equitable language where instructors will actually tell students that they're unintelligent
Wow,
or not
yeah.
smart
Mm.
or a bad writer. And all of that language lacking in equity is something that also helps to cause students to have those feelings about themselves internally.
No, it's very helpful. Thank you. I wish we had more play in my classrooms growing up. I was always anxious about just failing tests and things of that nature, but I wonder what kind of student I would have been and how much more I would have retained if the classroom felt more fun than anxiety inducing. Like, for sure. So that's very, very helpful. Thank you. I'm really glad that you're doing what you're doing so you can help these students retain the knowledge that's going to help them in their everyday lives. So you talked about fear of failure in the classroom. You also talked about experimenting with different learning styles and teaching styles in the classroom as well. Is there anything else that we should consider when it comes to how growth can be limited in the classroom?
So I think Dr. J. Luke Wood is a really great person to look towards and to look a little bit into his scholarship because sometimes having a growth mindset is not enough.
Mm-hmm.
The environments that we put people in, similar to how you were mentioning, the yelling manager,
Mm-hmm.
or I'm mentioning the instructors telling students that they can't write or, they're bad students or whatever the case is. Those environments actually are huge limiters as well. You
Yeah.
can be as confident as you want to be, but if you have
Mhm.
someone coming in the room telling you every day that you're horrible at what you're doing,
Yeah.
no matter if you believe in yourself or not, that is going to impact you in some way.
Yeah.
Specifically with Dr. Wood, he talks about how race and prejudice intersect in education.
Mm.
So think about it like this: if you have an instructor that only calls on male students to answer questions, that might impact
Yeah.
non-male identifying students' thoughts about if their answers are important, if their voice matters, or if they're even smart. Maybe they feel like, oh, maybe every time I've answered a question, I haven't given the right answer, so he's not calling me or they're not calling me, right? And at the same time, you can insert anything into that box. This XYZ student. Um, Also, the other thing is sometimes, even in business, there's certain groups of people who do receive positive feedback and positive reinforcement, whereas other groups don't. So
Mm.
just looking into him, I would say people need to kind of explore how they're navigating their own educational and business spaces, and are they really showing a bias in a way that might impact other people's belief about their own qualifications,
Yeah.
or excellence in the space.
Yeah, I love that. Oh man, this has been some great stuff, Regis. Thank you for joining me today to chat through, what a growth mindset is, why it's important in business and education, and what we can do to grow our own growth mindset, and why it's important whether you're a business leader, a employee, a student, or a academic leader to practice cultivating and growing our growth mindset, as well as what it looks like to do so in action. So wherever you are, just remember your environment matters. How you speak to yourself matters. And sometimes you have to be willing to uproot yourself and find the best environments for you so you could be your best self. And so that said, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, make sure that when you wake up every day, you're speaking life into yourself. Even if you have to speak to yourself in the mirror, even if you have a journal and you have to write out your goals, but also what you're doing well and maybe things that you want to improve on, like create those goals for yourself, so you can be your best self. Be a student of life and don't be afraid to learn.
All right, thank you all for
Mhm.
tuning in. This is Regis Peoples.
This is Keara Peoples.
All right, and we're going to catch y'all for the next one. All right, see you later.
Talk to you soon. Bye bye.